hear you. Yeah.
Is there any noises or whatever that you hear? Or it's very
No,
clear?
it's clear. It's clear.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So can you like briefly introduce yourself and what you do, like something like that?
Okay, so I mean, when you call me Mister, it sounds a little bit old, but technically I'm not that old. Yeah. By the way, I'm only 22. So, all
Yeah,
right.
you're same age as
So,
me.
oh wow. Okay, that's good. Very
Yeah.
convenient. Okay, so I'm Chee Seng. So most of my colleagues or my friends call me Cheese if you combine cheesing together. And who am I? I'm actually an associate UI UX designer at Stampede Design. Stampede Design is actually a UX design agency. So it's not a graphic design, it's more UX design, user experience design agency. And besides that, besides working at Stampede, I'm also a community advocate for Friends of Figma Kuala Lumpur. You may or may not have heard of me in some of the design community events, because sometimes I do speak at those events as well prior to this. So that's basically my very basic introduction of myself.
Yeah, I also get to know about you through like Friends of Figma.
Oh wow,
I did follow
cool.
your event. Yeah, so like I feel like
Yes.
you'll be like, I feel like maybe there's a chance to actually invite you to speaking to us and like share your experience. So that's why he's here.
Yep. Thanks for
Yeah,
inviting me.
yeah, sure, sure. Also, thank you for being like the first speaker for our actually the first speaker for our expert series, and also the first external speakers we invited. We have a good start at least, yeah. And also for everyone, right? For this expert session, we'll have four speakers for this whole month, every Friday, 8 to 9 p.m. So, for example, today is Chee Seng. Tomorrow, next Friday, we also have another session with IoT, and also another week later, we have a session about AWS, which is cloud computing. And also the last week of the March, we'll have one exciting company, which is a self-driving car company in Malaysia. So yeah, without further ado, how about Mr. Leong? Hey, Chee Seng, I mean Chee Seng.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
Chee Seng, can you probably leave the stage for you?
All right, sure. Okay, thanks, Kim. I'll share my screen. This- Okay, cool. All right, I hope you guys can see my screen. Double check. Okay, cool. So I already did my introduction. I'll skip that. So, all right, I'll just jump straight to the beef today. So, which is what's UI UX exactly? It's a very popular term nowadays, especially in the past 4 or 5 years. Yeah, you heard of UI UX again and again. Besides software engineering, which is also one of the most popular topics nowadays. So UI UX and software engineering. Now, before I dive into what it is, I also want to show you a very basic differences between both of them, even though I put it together UI/UX. Now, the interesting part is that UI isn't uh, doesn't equals to UX, so they're very different things. And how I actually visualize it here is that UI is actually under UX. So if you notice the Venn diagram, I didn't put any other stuff. I just want to focus on this two. That UI user interface in the long form is actually underneath of or inside user experience. Now I'll explain why further on. But the concept is that they are both different. They're not the same. When we talk about user interface, things are related to user interface. They are not equal to user experience, but they kind of correlate to each other, but different. And yeah, so let's start with UX, right? So what is user experience? So this definition is not fixed. The user experience can be defined by a lot of people differently. So, but for me, I wrote it this way. So user experience is the experience when the user is using a product or a service such as pleasure, efficiency, fun, satisfaction, and etc. etc. So it's about the experience of someone using a product or a service. So I do note it down there or a service because it's not only limited to products like iPad, iPhones, or software. It can be a service as well. What is a service, right? Service like you going into a McDonald's ordering your Happy Meal. This is a service. The process of ordering something is a service, and it's also part of your experience. And the second picture shows that ordering food. So this is both a service and a product. If you notice that you're ordering food from Grab, the service of the process of ordering food inside Grab is a service. So it combines both together. And Instagram as well. Instagram is a software product. And the fourth one is Tesla. So Tesla here, again, Tesla itself is a product, the car, and the services that like maintains the car is the experience. So experience is actually a very well-rounded thing that covers a product or a service. Though depending on what you're working on, can be a lot of things, but at the core of it, it's actually the experience of someone using something or a service, the experience, hence user experience. And okay, so that's very brief, but if you have any further more questions in terms of what's UX, what comes under UX, you can ask me later when I finish. So let's move on into what's UI, user interface in a long form. Now, in my definition here, user interface refer to interaction between humans and machines. So this one, it's actually a term that it exists quite for some time in the early days where computers are invented, because and they want to actually have a term for it. So what do they call? It's actually user interface, but you're basically interacting with a machine because it's a computer, right? And UI doesn't only mean GUI. What we are looking at right now in front of your computer and you're using your iPad, these are all GUI, graphical user interface. So this is actually the most common thing you interact with in your daily life. Your smartphones and all this other stuff, your TV. Right now, there's a lot of smart TVs. It's quite mainstream nowadays. Those are GUIs. And besides other GUIs, there is also forms. UI are not limited to only GUI. There's also other forms like voice control, Siri. Yeah, I'm familiar with Siri, what's Google's? I forgot what's Google's one. Google's one and Google's interface, and also gesture based. So gesture based, I would say it's not popular yet, but it's getting better. I'll show you one. So we have a very common GUI here. You won't hear the sound because I disabled it. So this is one UI from Samsung. Very straightforward, very familiar to all of you. And voice UI, I don't think you can listen to it, but it's okay. So this is basically voice control UI. It's also a UI because you're interacting with a machine. You see, so that which is why it makes it a user interface, because you're interacting with the machine. Thirdly is gesture. So this is something very, very new. I would say new to consumer, not to the ones that is inventing it, because Project Soli, which is available in Google Pixel, yeah, if you have a Google Pixel 4, you might have that feature that you can control your interface with just gestures like that. It's basically radars. So that is something Google has been doing for quite some time, and they released it during the Google Pixel 4. Yeah, Google Pixel 4 or 5. That part. And I actually like this gesture base because gesture UI is very natural to you, right? So when you want to flip a book, what do? You do this. That's natural. That's natural to a lot of people. You don't actually like, I don't know, like flip like this, I don't know. But you flipping, like the gesture of flipping a page inside a book is very natural. You either do this or you take the piece of paper and flip it. So that's gesture based. And that's what's user interface is. So it's not limited to GUI as we know, but it's also voice and also gesture based. Maybe in the future there's more. Maybe that in the future there is no UI at all, which is like telepathy or telekinesis. That's also a UI technically. It's just invisible. Oh. All right. Now, that's actually basically what's UI and UX. It's pretty straightforward if you want to explain it. And also with the popularity of UI and UX, then it comes in a question, it comes inside a question, why UI and UX is important, or why good design is important, good UI UX is important. I'll dive right in. Oh, it's loading. You guys seeing anything?
On chat. Yeah.
Wait, I think it's loading.
Yeah, sure.
All right. It's okay. I'll present it.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. I'll present it like this first. You guys can still see, right?
Yeah, we can see it. It's the
Okay.
particular image have a problem, the middle one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a loading issue, which is very unexpected. But okay. Okay, never mind. You can, at least you guys still can. Okay. Now, moving on is that why good design is important. Now, here are some examples of bad designs and how it affects people's lives. So, the first picture here, this is, I'm assuming this is like a washing machine, but there's a problem with it, and the problem is actually quite huge. If you are a normal person, or your mom or your dad, or even your grandparents trying to wash your clothes, you see this, they do not know what the hell it is. Look at those icons. Like, can we zoom into it? What is this? I don't know. Even I don't know. The first time I see it, I don't know. The second one, I don't know. To me, it's like a cloud, but it's on a washing machine. That doesn't make sense. And then what is this? I don't know. This is I, I am not sure what is this. So you see, there are two problems here. There are so many options, and the second problem is all these options doesn't explain itself. It's simple, yes, icon. The icon is simple, but it's so simple that I do not understand at all. That is a problem. So when I ask you, can you even tell what the icons means? It's like the design here doesn't function well. It has options, it has a function, but it doesn't tell me what the function does. Very, very bad. Let's look at a second picture, which is, I think it's more funny. Now, if you notice, the guy turns a timer, and so, okay, set it as 2 minutes. This is a start button, by the way. And then he can't start it, but he needs to press a dial. Now, this is very stupid, I think. Why the hell do you design something like that? You put a start button here. Of course, I would click on the start button, but it's not what I expected. The start button is actually the dial. I need to press on it. There's no instruction on the dial. So this is very, very bad. Now, who will actually go and press the dial, even though they can't, even though they find a problem like start? Now imagine you are in this situation, right? Would you press the dial after knowing that the start button doesn't work? Most probably not, because there's no instruction anywhere on the interface, or in this case, like I think an oven, microwave, because there's no instruction at all. So again, it doesn't afford it. Third one, this is stupid. Okay, everything's fine, the hose is fine, and then when you start to open it, it blocks it. This is very, very bad design. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with your contractor, or something's wrong with your architect. So yeah, find the architect. Now these are designs in our daily lives, physical objects. We'll move on to something much more soft, which is software, or a GUI, as I mentioned it just now. Now, if you are able to see the animation of the first one, which is PayPal, seems fine at first, right? Seems fine at first. Everything looks good. UI, I think, is cool. The problem with this UI is that it takes too much time to actually load. for a receipt. So this is actually a receipt on PayPal. It's a dribble animation by Vladislav Tizun. So I actually took it from there. The duration of it to load to tell you how much you have paid or what's the price, too long. If you calculate, right, everything shows maybe like about 3 seconds later. You can actually just show it. This is the price. It's better. In development sense, this one has more work to do because you need to load all the animation. But then it doesn't contribute to the overall experience. So it's like more work, but less conversion. It doesn't, yeah, nice graphics, nice animation, but it doesn't do its job well. It feels very useless, right? Second one is, this one is ridiculous. This one is very, very bad. This one is, we have a drop down and a scroll drop down. But then look at the dates, 2060. Now, this function is too futuristic. The creator is too futuristic. It's 2060 and you can still scroll. Oh yeah, you can still scroll. Yeah, it might be 2020 something. So the problem is this, depending on situation, okay, depending on any situation, I don't think you actually need to have a date until 20 or the year 2100. That's literally almost 100 years later. And then the option is just too much. Can you imagine if you're using on a mobile phone, you're scrolling mad, and then here didn't show like what's before 2013. Maybe it's like starting in 1940, and that's even worse. 1940 people aren't really that much these days, okay? But yeah, so that is something to consider in when you're designing a UI. All right, that's how it affects, right? If it's a very bad design, you can feel it. It really, really doesn't do its job well, and you cannot complete your goal. Taking something from a cabinet, you want to eat something, you want to heat it up in the oven just now, you want to wash your clothes, but you always forget what's the function. These are all small design problems, but it affects people's lives so much. So it's very, very important to have good design. And also, I also want to point out, good design is not art, and design is not art at all. Design is very logical and scientific. Now that's all on people's lives. Let's talk a little bit about businesses. Good design equals to good business. I'm not sure whether you agree with me, but in my case, I think good design does equal to good businesses, and I will tell you why. Now, first one is, I think I can resume back. All right. Can I resume back? Oh, okay. Okay, everything works well already. Right. First of all, I want to show you why good design equals to good business is that good experience here, good experience will lead to high retention rate. I'll explain retention to you guys later on what it is, of the application or a service. Of course, that's not everything, but certainly it is key. Now, what is high retention rate? High retention and retention, I'll explain retention first. Retention is actually your users coming back. So imagine you download an app, you log in, download an app, you sign up, then you play around. Cool. After 5 seconds, you log out because you need to do other stuff. And then because the app has some use to you, you go back in and use the app again, and then again and again. That's retention, going back to use a product or a service. So the retention level, if your experience is good, if your service or product can provide the experience that a user needs or a customer needs, then automatically, if I'm a customer, nice, it's doing a job well, it's doing a job purposely, and it feels very good doing it, I'll come back and use it. That means retention, and businesses needs that if your main source of income came from people like us users. So yeah, but before that, right? So look at the first point here, right? Your service and product still needs to be still needs to have market fit first, and then you improve the experience. I'll explain what all this means, and in the end, happy users, happy business. I have a graph here. All right, these are a little bit about product and business side, because in the end, you want to design something that people want to use and you can make money off, or it actually make a person's life a better place. Now, if you look at this graph, there is two lines here, and one line equals the blue line is actually product A, the green line is product B. Let's look at product A. Product A is actually the blue line, right? Product A has product market fit, and then over time, so the x-axis is days since the first use. Over time, it maintains the retention. So this means that over time, that so naturally, right, you will always start at 100%, and then you slowly drop. Your product is going to be like this, because when you launch it 100%, wow, new app, I'm going to use it. Then after a few days, your user feels like, this app doesn't really help me. Then your user starts to drop. The users who come back to use it starts to drop. Now, that's natural for any service or product. It will drop. The point is, you shouldn't be dropping straight until the end. And this is what happens to product B, because product B does not have product market fit. So what does product market fit means? It simply means the product you've built did not fit the usage or the needs of the user. People don't need it. You build it, but I don't need it. So over time, then nobody's going to come back to your app or service, and your retention rate will go down. So even though you have good experience, this is a point I want to make. Even though you have good experience, but again, if you don't have product market fit, or no one sees the need of your product or service, then they won't come back, even though it has good experience. So you need to have you need to be able to achieve a user's goal and then improve the experience to retain them. And this is what happens to product A, because right now they know that, okay, my product actually has demand. Some people will want to use it. Now it's time to improve the experience of using it. Because when you first launch, it's good, it's cool, it's solving problems. I want that problem to be solved, but the experience is not that good. The UI, okay, that it's really hard to use it. Now it's your time to actually improve it as a developer, or as a business owner, or the application developer, because right now people need your product, but the experience is not there, and then it's time to improve your experience. So that's where you retain your customers or your users. If not, then you just lose, even though you have a product market fit. Because right now, especially in the software world, there's a lot of competition. If you don't do it, if you don't solve the problem, if you don't improve the experience fast enough, somebody will do it, and then you get taken over. So that's why good experience is actually quite impactful. Because even though you have a good product, if you don't improve it over time, you will still lose customers, and in the end, because if your business is requiring constant source of income from customers, then you're going to lose your business very soon. All right, I'm going to rest for a while. There's a lot of business talk here. Yeah, it does. So hopefully you can actually copy, wow, this is a keyword, maybe a Google search. And of course, after talking about businesses, I want to talk about a little bit about more on ethical. Is that sometimes it's not just about making more money, but it's actually making the world a better place. think some of you might resonate with me. And this is actually one of the extra points I want to talk about as well. Early on, I talked about to retain your users, you need to have experience, and you need to provide good experience if you have a product market fit in the beginning. Now, there are a lot of ways of retaining users, and most of the time, it actually comes at the cost of a user itself without the users knowing it. And this is a diagram that says how a product actually affects a user's life, good way or a bad way. Now, we look at this peddler, right? So what is a peddler? Peddler is actually someone who sells drugs. Yeah, someone who sells drugs. So, but then, and then you look at the meaning here. The maker does not use it. So if I'm the creator, I don't use what I create. But then my users, it improves it naturally improves my user's life materially. But as a maker, as a developer, I don't use it. I don't use my own creation. I just continue to do it because there's demand, but I don't use it myself because maybe I think it's not really that healthy for me. And then we move on to the dealer. The creator doesn't use it, but it does not improve the user's life. This does not mean that the users actually doesn't use it. It just means it doesn't improve users' life. I'll explain more on that. I'll provide examples later on. And move on to this one, entertainer. The creator uses it. However, it doesn't improve users' life. That's a little bit funny. All right. And the last one is facilitator. The creator uses what they create and it materially improves users' life. Materially. Now, what do you think after I tell this? What can you imagine? What kind of products or software you are thinking right now that you think it technically improves you materially and you will still use it? Or some products that you need to use it but you don't think it's actually improving yourself? You can think about that because you need to use it, but it doesn't really improve my mental health. So that is the one part. I don't actually want to show the physical example, but I'll tell you what it is. One example is Facebook and Instagram. Facebook and Instagram is a very, very powerful application. They are designed to keep you engaged. And that's the purpose because we are actually the main source of income for Facebook and Instagram. If you notice, Instagram's latest update, actually it's just a few months ago. If you're an Android user, you will notice that your navigation is a little bit different. Your like tab moves to the top right corner. I'm not sure what the hell is that, but it's a very forceful design. But it's forceful because it's forced the shopping cart tab to replace the like button. And that is very, very crucial for Instagram because of how we are so used to choosing like at that tab. Right now, your first interaction is choose shopping cart, but you actually want to see like in the first place. But then the problem is, although you do not want to see what you want to buy in the shopping cart, eventually you might want to buy it because that's how Instagram knows you through your interactions with Instagram. Everything you search before, everything you see before, how much time you are looking at a photo, it's being calculated and it's being trained to provide experience to you that you might think you need. The problem is you don't technically need it. Yeah, and that's the part. You keep on buying and buying, and you don't notice it. So be very careful because This is their mission. It's designed that way to get you hooked to the software, and then you keep loading and loading and loading. So that's about ethical design, I would say. So it's not always about money. It does increase revenue, but at the cost of us mentally, because you just keep buying without knowing that you don't really have that much money anymore. But I just want to buy the new shoe. It looks nice on Instagram. Yeah, so that's the illusion part. Getting really, really dark here. All right, let's move on to something more positive. All right. Oh, okay. Now, how do we solve that? How do we make sure design is good, design is beneficial for the users? There are a lot of ways, there are a lot of things, but of course, I'm going to talk about a very famous design thinking process. It starts with empathize, to feel something. Uh, Moving on, after you empathize with the user, you define. I'll talk a lot more in each of those steps further. And after you define what's the problem, you ideate on the problem. What are the possible ways to solve it? And yeah, after the ideation, after you come up with all the idea, it's time to actually build the ideas into a prototype, a working prototype. Not a code prototype, but actually, if it's a coded prototype, it's also a prototype. And finally, with that prototype, you need to test. This is actually quite important, testing. Now, right now, it's very linear. It's from left to right, right? However, if you have designed a product before, like me, this is never the case. This is no step one until five. It never happens that. It happens step one until five, but then you realize step five, you find out something. Then, oh, wow, after I test, I have new ideas. Because when you have this prototype, you test this prototype, you are testing your assumption. You're testing an assumption with potential users. So, for example, Kim is my potential users here. So I test with Kim. Kim provide me feedback on the prototype. Then I need to improve it because sometimes Kim has like different opinions on the prototype. So I think the experience is not what I like. I think this part of the prototype doesn't do its job well. So what happens? I cannot just release product, right? It's like, oh, test fail, but we release product anyway. That's really bad. Then we move it back to ideation. What did Kim say? Analyze what Kim said. Oh, Kim said this, Kim said that, but is it really true? Then we start a process again. And that's only one part. Sometimes you learn about users. Like maybe Kim is not the right users at all. Like, oh shit, Kim is a different user. It doesn't fit the product. Then I need to start over again to empathize whether this is the right user for me to build the software or the product for. So because after testing, so testing reveals a lot of stuff because you actually you test with actual users. You're not testing with your boss or your colleagues, but actual users. Now, fourth thing is sometimes after ideation, you create your prototype. While creating your prototype, while you're designing your prototype, you learn something because you can't just like boom, I have an idea. The first page is login, second page is home page, third page is card. You can never do that because there's so many ideas coming from. You need to group it together. You think which one is the best one, and while you're doing it, you find out there's new ideas. It's very natural. That happens all the time in our company, and that is very natural. And of course, it's also testing. And testing is one of the most important aspect of designing a product. Test, and it reveals some of the insights that redefine the problem again. So even though you define your problem to be ideated or to be built, after after testing with the user, you find that the problem you defined earlier on isn't what you want. After speaking to a user, then you need to go back again to find it out more. So again, it might seem linear at first when it's being presented like this, and when you're doing it, it's never the same. It's never linear, and it's very natural, and it's normal to be not linear, because what happens is that, oh, empathize, then define. I feel like something's wrong. You shouldn't, not like you should move on, right? Then we have a problem already. You know something's wrong, but you move on. You are really, really bad. So that's not our case. If you find out a problem, you need to redefine again. You need to check back. You need to go back one step, or go back two steps, or go back even in the beginning, depending on the data you've got. So you always need to analyze whether, am I doing the right thing? Is it achieving the business goal and the user's goal together? If not, then we need to rethink our strategy. So that's the design thinking process. It's very useful. It's not only designing product. It's a lot of, yeah, it actually partly it's designing product or services. You always need to test. The key thing is actually to test, because if you notice, a lot of things are reviewed from the testing part. All the dotted lines are coming out from testing. Testing does reviews a lot of stuff, because you're testing with the actual person, and actual person tells you a lot. Yep. And that's all about it for what's UI UX and why it's important. And one of the additional things I want to talk about before I end this is that how you can get started as a student as well. So again, in general, when it comes to learning, there's no one way. So it's like you start, then everything in front of you do not know where it goes, and that's natural, because there's no one size fits all or fits everyone, and you will need to test out your own materials or your processes to learn. And what I did was that there are, of course, tools for designing. Figma. I came from Figma, of course. Sketch, and also Adobe XD. And you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna use this, of course. There is also a logical reason, not because not only because I'm a community advocate for Figma. Figma is just very, very easy to use, to be honest. And as a true Malaysian and a true Asian, this is free. Yeah. Compared to Adobe and Sketch. Actually, Adobe is free lah, but it's still very light. You can still design, but compared to Sketch and Figma, it's not that powerful. Sketch, of course, you need to pay. Yeah, you need to pay, but it's only one time. It's $99. Yeah, $99. So it's like 400 ringgit, but it's 400 ringgit for lifetime. Of course, if there's update, then you need to pay slightly extra more, but it's not that bad. It's just that I find Sketch is actually one of the first ones, to be honest, one of the first UI design tool that came out. So I think Sketch has been here for almost 10 years, and Figma is like, it's got popular maybe 4 years only, but Figma is doing a lot of good stuff, and in terms of feature and its web. And SketchUp sometimes it's also only available on Mac for Sketch. If you're a Windows user, very sorry. Sketch won't plan to release for Windows. And because Figma is a web-based app, even though they have a desktop app, it's actually running on web lah. Technically, if you inspect the code, it's still, Figma itself is technically a browser if you download the desktop app, and which is why it's quite light compared to Sketch. But I still recommend you try it, Figma, because first off, it's free. Second thing, because you guys are still student, there's a student version, not student version, sorry, student package, which is I think 2 years. No, actually education team. It's kind of like a pro. It's actually a pro account for students, which is very good. You can have your own projects, unlimited projects. Yeah, unlimited projects. So I think please look it up because you guys are still students. You can use your Xiamen account to do that. That's tools for designing. Of course, tools for writing. So writing is also very important in designing stuff. If you design a UI and a software, you want to explain it. Of course, you want to write it. You don't just show like this is the next best app. I don't know what it is. You need to explain how you design this. There are two applications I use. Medium is not an application; it's a platform. Notion, I think Notion is quite famous already. I don't need to explain much. Notion is actually a really, really well designed product as well. It's almost like a note-taking super app. Um, I use Notion. I don't write that much right now, but when I do, I would use Notion. And publishing articles, I will publish it on Medium because Medium has that network and exclusivity that I need. But you can still write on Medium and post it. It's just not as advanced as Notion. If you want to do a lot of markdown stuff, include your code, yeah. But yeah, definitely recommended either one of these. Of course, Notion can do much more stuff. And things I recommend. So I don't just recommend you stuff that I think is okay. These are some things that I actually use. So online articles. I don't read much in terms of books, but I do read. Online articles is 7 brilliant portfolios from visual designers. If you want to inspire yourself, you want to feel, wow, I need to start design now, right now. You can look at all these links. And how to write a successful design case study. I already show you what are the possible tools you can use. This is actually how you can start. And also reflecting on my first year as a full-time product designer. This is actually, I think this is by a designer from Carousel, Singapore, if I remember it correctly. No, sorry. This is a designer for MongoDB. Yeah, so she is actually quite a good writer. I do recommend to read her article. And physical books. Everyone, I feel like personally, everyone who wants to get into design should read this book. It's by Don Norman. He's the guy who actually created the term user experience design. He was an engineer. Uh, but again, that makes sense, right? Because design, again, is not an art. It's not meant to be very artistic. It's meant to be functional. It's meant to look nice, functional, and works well. It delivers a purpose. It's logical and scientific. Yeah, you really should check out this physical book, Design of Everyday Things. Oh, wow. I click on it, book depot. Yeah, book depot. And also the second one is the sprint one. It will actually take you, do tell me whether you guys can hear me because right now it's raining. Yeah. All right. The second book is Sprint. It's actually this book. Yeah, this blue color one. This is actually a very good book as well. Which is also a book I wrote. Not wrote, sorry. I wrote. That's a lot. That's another level. So how to solve big problems and test new ideas. This is basically a book to teach you how design sprint is done and also how design thinking is being implemented in real life. And basically it guides you. It provides guides and checklists for you to start your next design thinking process. And it's very, very helpful because it's very instructional, which is why it's not boring lah. It's very instructional. And I think that's all from my side. And before I end this, there's a quote by Don Norman, who wrote the Design of Everyday Things. Good design is actually a lot harder to notice than poor design, and it relates to you later on, in part because good design fits our needs so well that the design is invisible, serving us without drawing attention to itself. Bad design, on the other hand, screams out its inadequacies, making itself very noticeable. And this is very logical. You will never complain or tell me about, wow, this design is very good. Most of the time you say, oh, this design is nice because it looks nice. But you won't tell me the logical part. Why does it look? Why does this design is okay? Because again, you're not a designer or engineer. but you will definitely complain to me, this design is shit. Why I cannot do this, why I cannot do that, I don't know how to use it. Your parents like smartphone, I do not know how to use it. How do I close this? This is complaints, and this is also means that it's a potential to bad design, because bad design is very, very easily noticeable, but good design is invisible. You just, nothing happens, everything seems fine, that's good design. So that, which is why it's invisible. And yeah, that's it from my side. If you want to search for me, these are all the links. This is my personal website, so yeah, it's not been updated for a year, so it's still quite new. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay. Really thanks Chee Seng about that. Yeah, I really get a lot of insights about like design thinking, like design process. Didn't expect that the test process is that important before that. Yeah, and also like um because like I actually researched about you before like this talk or something. And I feel like there's a few questions that might be interesting for like the people here, the students here, because like most of our students here are usually in like technology background, development background. So I knew you is from a technical technology background too. You actually studied like software engineering and stuff. Previously you also did that. You started with UI UX, like despite before that you are like doing like developer stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So my time as a developer, wow, wait, I need to close the door because it's raining heavily.
Yeah,
Sorry.
sure, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys can actually um, ask your question below. Then we will actually have some time to actually answer all your questions. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Sorry, guys. I'm back.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did I start? How did I transition from
Yeah.
being a dev to designer? Right. Okay. First off, I'm not a really, really good dev lah, but if you want to really compare to a actual software engineer, I'm not that level. But when you talk to me about design, not software engineering, front end development, particularly, I still understand what you're talking about. If you show me a code, I still can read it. So that's as far as I go lah. If you want to debug something in terms of front end, I can still do it lah. Write a bit code here and there. How did I transition? So I have always been very into tech and design, both together. And I always like science. The problem is I cannot choose between them. So yeah, technology, software engineering. I also like software engineering. Design, I actually like to draw. I actually like the scientific part of how things are being built. But then, which is why I try it out, try dev first. Dev seems cool and all, but then compared to design, the learning rate and my improvement rate is very different. So when I learn design, of course I learn faster than programming. Uh, but then at the end, I cannot really leave programming behind that much. So, which is why I choose UI UX. And if you actually notice um, what I said just now, is that UI UX kind of correlates to software engineering a lot, simply because uh, experience is built on top of software engineering at first. If you look at the history of software engineers or software designers, right, they were all engineers almost. If you look at it, the designer of the mouse, the designer of the first Mac OS, the designer of the first type on Mac OS, they are all engineers. You can imagine how powerful those people are. They are engineers, but they design something very elegant. So now you can notice that why design is logical and scientific, because uh, it's combining both a little bit of the art, visual side, like good looking design, and also some of the engineering side, which is logic and science, and which is what I like. And UI UX is in the middle, I'm in the middle, because it's still software and it's design, and and I said, okay, cool. I can still get into coding from time to time. I don't code much anymore, to be honest. But because when I start code, like, okay, JavaScript, then right. Okay, now I go back to design. Sometimes I feel bored lah. Yeah, but knowing coding helps a lot in terms of UI UX design, because right now you know the limitation and you also know what's possible. But that doesn't mean you're how to say your god level, because don't take it for granted lah. I would say when you know software engineering and you turn into design, then you think you're really good, right? But then simply because you think you're really good, technology changes so fast. Few months later, there's a new language comes, then it replaces the old one. Then you know nothing already. So uh, which is why it's important to not take it for granted and always keep on learning. So I still look at new software codes libraries, like wow, especially JavaScript. I like JavaScript a lot, like JavaScript library. Vue.js. My website is built on Vue.js.
I like React. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We're not arguing today.
Yeah.
No,
Today not
okay.
arguing. Today's peace.
Yeah.
So like another question here, right? Probably like one of our members here like want to know like your past UI UX works. I can say a little bit about what I know about. I remember that you have a Medium post which went quite viral about the McDonald's thing, right?
Oh yeah. That's
Probably you can mention that about like the UI UX to the person, because like
yeah, that is surprisingly viral. So actually that's one of the things that make me very viral, and it also actually gave me a lot of job opportunities, and also my first talk back in 2019's Google Extended, not Google Extended, DevFest, yeah.
DevFest.
So yeah, so that is I mean, you guys can actually look into it later on. It's actually on Medium. That McDonald case study is done purely first because I need to find a job, but then I don't have a very powerful case study. I need to find a next job, right? But then I don't have a very powerful case study. I need to start something, right? Second is that McDonald is actually a very interesting problem that is very relatable to almost everyone in Malaysia, because everyone means that if you are someone who is in your 40s or 50s, you will still go to McDonald's, right? Because you need to take your kids. So that's very relatable when you use the system. It's like, hey, shit, I do not know how to use it, because I will sit down at McDonald's there, and then I just notice all the uncles and aunties using the kiosk, and then they do not know what they are doing. And it's like, wow, okay, that is very bad. So I decided to just do a redesign. The UI part isn't that good from if I look back right now, but then I think it solves some of the major UX issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I also provided the link at the comment section. Probably I'll provide the link here at the comment section, and also you guys can actually have a look too. Yeah, so here I just found it. Yeah, I actually read it before. It's like quite insightful for at least for people who don't know like UI UX before.
It's a very long read, but
yeah. Like you really express like your whole thinking process and all kind of things. Like probably is that's why probably you went viral, and also it's McDonald's at the same time.
Yeah, I do think it's because it's relatable in the end. Yeah,
relatable. Yeah, and so one more question here. Some advice like how they can prepare their design portfolios for interview.
Ooh, wow, this one. Let me think. How they can be depending on. It is actually a very hard question, because why is it hard? Okay, I explain why it's hard. Different companies have different points of views, and sometimes they don't want to. Sometimes they don't need your portfolio. Sometimes they just need your project, which is why I say hard. But okay, you know what? I think it's better for me to show how it looks like. Let's talk about mine, which is 1 year ago. Oh shit! Last time I was still in freelance, IDF. Now, Now, if you guys can see, this is my web portfolio. Very, very basic, straight to the point, and that is actually the point, straight to the point. If I'm a recruiter, right, I immediately want to know what are the projects that you think as the creator yourself is worth to mention or put up front. So of course, the most powerful one is McDonald's, and the second one I designed that time is a Doriport app. It's a loyalty app, and Facebook AR. I mean, Facebook AR is not it's more on the practice, so but I think it's very, very good. So I only choose 3 because, imagine if you have 5, 6, 7, 8. To be honest, a lot of times people won't scroll it down and see the rest of your case study because it's less important to them already, and you need to know that in terms of recruiter experience, they have only so much time. If you're a company hiring, right? If you're a big company hiring, you're hiring a lot of people at a time. No, sorry, you're hiring one or two people at a time, but you receive a lot of resume, portfolio requests, maybe hundreds and thousands. You won't spend so much time looking through them. So it's important to just show show the work you're proud of immediately upfront. Any additional stuff you can put it, like for example, my additional stuff here is coding. So these are stuff I code. So if they are interested, they can see it. If they're not, they will need to, because it's not important to me. In the end, I'm a designer. I'm not an engineer. So it doesn't matter. But at least they know, oh, this guy can code. There's a slight flex there. It's like, oh, this designer can code. Wow. But yeah, again, and also I click on UI UX project, there's a lot more if they want to find out more. But again, the top ones are this. So they will most probably look at this first 2 only, if not even the third one. Yeah. So this is how I structure it. And most of the time, how designers should structure and how everyone should structure if they have a portfolio. Be very simple and upfront to show what your work, the work that you are most proud of. Because you need to know recruiter don't have time uh, to read all the things. They will just say whether this guy or girl is qualified or not, whether the project is cool or not. Then they just move on. If not, then you just skip to another one. Yeah.
Yeah. So like a few more questions here, like is it okay that we extend a little bit because there are some few questions. Yeah. So yeah, a few plug here probably. Yeah, people will ask what is Stampede Design, and so there are people who ask what is Friend of Figma. Probably you can like slightly tell them a little bit about that.
All right. Stampede Design. Let me show you the website.
Yeah.
Man, I'm so bad at this. I'm so bad at explaining my own company. My boss will find me. By the way, my boss is also the one that speaks a lot at events. She is Shaza Hakim. You might have heard of her. And bit design. So again, I actually briefly explain about what Stampede is. Stampede, again, it's a UX design agency. So user experience design agency. What we design particularly is more on websites, software, enterprise software, consumer software related mostly. It's not software experiences, and we focus on the experience itself. So it's not just UI; it's overall. That's basically it. So we are, and to if you want to differentiate, we are not some marketing company. So marketing does graphic design or copywriting. That's very different. They try to promote an event. But what we are doing right now is that we want to make a software that is usable to both to the user and is impactful for the business or our client. So that's our aim, user experience, right? User experience design. And and if you notice here, some of the things Stampede did, it's all about software and a little bit more on the Rice Bowl Awards. Yeah. So again, it's more software design, I would say, if it's a simpler term, but more specifically, it's user experience design. Yeah.
Yeah. How about Friends of Figma? A little bit.
All right.
Ah, also
Friends of Figma is very straightforward. So, okay, do I have access right now? I think I have. I'm not sure whether I logged out.
by the way, I also share the Friend of Figma Facebook there. You guys can also have a look there. Yeah, Friend of Figma KL.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I didn't log in.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so Friends of Figma is basically it's a design community under the name of Figma, because which is in KL. So it's just a design community in KL that is focused on Figma products or design in general. I actually haven't do anything very Figma specific, but I did a lot of talks on design in general, but it's not Figma specific. But that's not wrong as well, because again, Figma is a design tool. That's what we do. We have talks and events sometimes, or even didn't log in here, but okay, yeah. Sometimes talks, events, activities, and you always have activities in the beginning. So that's how I do it. Yeah, that's basically it. It's actually a design community. Unfortunately, we haven't have our physical meetup. The first meetup is already virtual because it starts in the early 2020.
Yeah.
I'm also like very sad already. Like, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so like it's quite insightful. Like I joined a few talks before, like for example, like the one previously, I think last year or this year, start of this year, there's one I joined with 4 speakers, and there's one I joined. Yeah, one of it. It's quite simple. You guys can actually follow the page, actually join the community. You can like see a lot of different things from school like this. Yeah, because like usually design are not taught in school, right?
When you say design, okay. If you say software design, or in other terms, human computer interaction, very advanced. The name also like, I need to get into this degree. Yeah. But no, in Malaysia they don't have. What we have right now, even in the One Academy, which is one of the best design school, they don't have things that is related to
graphic design things.
Yeah, design. It's only like graphic design, communications design, blah blah.
Yeah, and also there's one question here, right, for you. Like, if like sometimes like good design take times. If a project in rush, what will you do?
Postpone. No, delay. Okay. Depends. Actually, really good question. Now, at Stampede, we usually don't. Okay, we still rush if I say don't rush, it's actually basically lying, right? There's always rushing, but no matter how much we rush, we try to not rush to the extent that it costs the final product's usability. There's a cost, like a design that for the product. So we can rush. We will rush at times if the client really needs it, but we also make it upfront that now, if you want me to complete at this time, what are the fallbacks of your product. Because again, good design does take time, but if you rush it, something might not work. Then it's not our problem, and at the same time you agree to the rush, so there's a drawback lah. Well, we most of the time we don't do that. We just tell that if you really want to rush, what is the best day to really postpone the timeline or the deadline, then we just move forward with the time lah. But usually clients are understandable, because we don't get like random clients that is unreasonable lah. So far, they understand, like if you rush it, there are some drawbacks to your product.
Yeah, understand. Yeah, so that's a very interesting insight. Yeah, and so like from like usually developers, they also like not really care of like design stuff. Usually developers, engineers, yeah. So that's why, and also like I want to ask you, this is a question for myself. It's like, who usually UI UX designer work with? Like, I'm just curious about it. Usually, how you work with like the workflow or something. For example, a software product.
We work. Okay, depending on the organization you're in. So I have experience working in a startup before, and right now we are in an agency setting. So I'll talk about agency setting. Agency setting is a little bit different, but because we utilize the design thinking part, the sprint part as well. When you're thinking on a solution inside a sprint, you need to involve developer. So in the beginning, when you're actually thinking on what's the problem, what is the potential ideas, you're actually taking in ideas from a developer or an engineer itself. So that basically covers their opinion, and then you can move on. And which is why it's very important to involve engineers in the first place, because they are the ones who is building it. Yeah, if you don't involve them, you design something that is too hard to code, then we have a problem. And that is quite a usual thing lah. But in agency, most of the time we work more with other designers and also product managers, which is the bridge between business and designers, and sometimes product managers manage the timeline the most lah. And yeah, we don't usually work with, but during handover, right? Like for example, after the product is done, the UI is done, then we need to hand over to developer or the engineer. It's like, okay, these are the designs, but that is another. I think that is another part that I would share lah. But I'll briefly talk about it. Is that you don't just share your design to developer. Developer will know what it means. Um, yeah, it's like, nah, this is the landing page. Then, okay, then okay, what I built this. Then in the end, the interaction is different, and that is one of the very important part. For example, you when you just pass a design, right? There's no animation and something. You can't tell when your mouse hover on a link, what happens, what color does it change, blah blah blah. The is in is out effect, all these calculations, small stuff. Developer needs to know because it's an interaction. It's a small animation, and if you don't tell them, then they will just static lah. Okay, hover, appear like this. That's it, and that's problematic. Yeah. Any recommendation?
Yeah. Any recommendation for uni student to gain more experience in UI UX design? Probably. Yeah.
Any recommendation? How do you say, right? What kind of recommendation? There's a lot of recommendation.
Like recommend to do, like recommend to study, recommend to.
I feel like actually I already shared in the slides that if you're a book reader, you can start with the book that I recommend, The Design of Everyday Things. That is basically talking about designing products as a whole. And if you're not a book reader, you're more an online article person, then I'll have also that option, which might or might not inspire you to look into product design. So that they actually basically explain it. Then again, recommendation is just to get to know what is product design, which I already explained, and furthermore, it's just to read about it, to know more what's possible. If you want to say that what in next few years is there more opportunities for UI UX designer, I would say yes, simply because it's tied with software engineering and products in general a lot. So of course you need to upskill. I'm not saying that okay, UI UX design and especially UI UX design, if you don't keep on learning, I don't think you can be a designer for too long, because it's highly dependent on the product and product changes. It's not like you see Facebook and it's always the Facebook that is 2008 UI. They have to change. Yeah. And that part will affect how you design your product.
Yeah. So, hey, dear money, like.
Hey, what the
like? Would you like to answer that? If not, like we can probably.
Did you earn money from your previous work?
Like probably you can give insights. Probably
I have a lot of work, Gandalf.
Yeah, probably can give insight on like, is it like the starting point of like UI designer and developer? Like starting salary like about the same. Probably they are curious about that. Like if
Actually,
junior,
good question. I'm not sure about designer junior. Okay, I'm still a junior, but I think my pay is actually quite decent, to be honest. But I can't review that, but
yeah.
I'm not sure where I can review it, but rather than say it. but,
That-
but I do feel like as a junior level, I still think I'm a junior level because associate, right? And there's much to learn. My pay right now is very decent for junior level. Previous work, if you're asking about previous work, freelance earn a lot. I definitely say if you freelance as a UI UX designer and you can sell
yourself.
what you do, yeah, you can sell yourself and also you can sell what you do. You can actually earn a lot. And last year is like everybody's struggling, right? I'm actually like okay, I'm actually quite good lah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like probably can like share a little bit like freelance, the benefits of being a freelance UI UX and also like being like associate, like difference insights about that probably. To hear that.
Okay. Freelance, I mean, besides the usual thing that there's no boss running you, blah blah. No, actually, that's not how it works. Freelance actually makes you much more independent because if you do not continue working on a project, you have no money, and you need to find another way to earn more money, and that is why freelance sometimes is actually a tougher part because you need to think about what's next. Um, that's the freelance journey you need to earn. And when I say UX design freelancing, right, it's not like client come 1 month, 1 month, then 1 month later, project done. Again, if that's not how UX design work. Even though you're one person as a freelancer, it takes a long time. My last one as a freelance contract took me a year. That's building a design library for them. So that's a year. Yeah, it was 2 months. Then I figure out maybe I can improve this. Then you stretch until a year. But so that's how it works. Decent range from what to what.
Yeah, I think you can just search in the internet. There are a lot of statistics.
Yeah, you can
Yeah, that's
say I can say 3.8 and above lah.
okay. Yeah, and so like let's wrap up with the last question here because like lots of the participants here, right, are from software engineering or like software engineering. We have another course called DMT, Digital Media Technology, and also computer science, AI students here. So like they want to ask like any requirements or advice you can give like for them which are inspired to be a UI UX designer, although they are from software engineering background. Any requirement or advice for them? Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I do. So again, right? I think I explained slightly a bit just now, but I'll give a more detailed explanation. Now, when you come from a software engineering background or engineering background in general, anything that is more scientific lah, and logical, or even a mathematics background, actuaries, when you go into UI UX design, you will still feel there's a benefit being an engineer last time because there's a lot of things relates to UI UX, and then you feel like wow, UI UX very easy because I already know how to build software. To a certain point, because you cannot always rely on engineering's point of view to see design. If if you do that, if you take it for granted, then you might as well be software engineer again lah. Don't do design, right? There is a specific skill set that requires your mindset to change from an engineer to a designer. And if you how to say if you don't want to learn to change, then you won't learn to be a good designer. You will be a designer, but you'll never be a better or the best designer because you still have you still focus on software engineering side, can do better, blah blah. However, however, you can use knowledge from being a software engineer because that's really useful. That's how I also use sometimes when I actually hand over, I actually know how software engineers should look at design. So I would actually organize properly. I don't even need to consult them because I know how they think, and that's a very good, because it's like when you hand over in a meeting, right? What does software engineer needs to know? I know right now as a software engineer, I see your design. I need to code it, okay? And then when I code it, what happens? On the interaction level, hovering, effects, delays. These are things that I will ask as an engineer as well to know. So these are things that I will explain as a designer. So these are very important parts, small parts, and skill sets you can take from engineering to design. Yeah, and design again is not art. Design is scientific and logical. There's a little bit of aesthetic as well, of course.
Yeah.
Um, but it's more on the scientific part, because you always design something that is functional and nice, but there's a reason why you design it. Even though you can still say I put this color because it feels very calm and warm, it feels very nice. That's also a scientific explanation. Yeah.
Yeah, so like really thank Chee Seng here to like share a lot about these things. Probably like there are still some question there. Like probably we'll skip it because it's getting late now. We also get over time.
Yeah.
Really thank for our session today. Like we really learned a lot about like UI UX, especially design, how to define design. Previously, like a lot of people have probably like in our mind probably like we know design like drawing, sketching, or coloring. Yeah, I think that's a lot of like misconception about design. A lot of people say, oh, you designer, you color.
I don't know shit about color now, but
coloring. They thought, yeah.
But you need to know color theory.
Yeah, color theory.
Yeah.
But it's not like it's not really like what they say like a graphic artist is not really something like that. It's a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, but again, right now, this is one thing I want to mention before we end this is that now, let's say you are not an engineer going to UI UX, you are a graphic designer. This is entirely different. Right now, you're on the creative side, and then you need to learn the logical and scientific part.
Thing.
Yeah, that is the contrast between coming from engineering and coming from creative. And to me, I didn't come from either side. I start from both.
Yeah.
So that is the special part lah. But I don't recommend to do that. It's actually very hard to balance. Yeah.
Yeah, really. Yeah, really appreciate today. And also like we get a lot of insights about design. And probably next time we have chance when the COVID gets over, we like to invite you to Xiamen University too.
All right. Sure.
Yeah. So really thanks for sharing today. And so probably like at last we have some shameless plug here. Yeah. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We have next week. We also have another expert session. We invite someone from IoT industry to share about IoT insights and things. Let's go to the last slide. And if you want to rewatch this, right? You watch this session, you can actually watch it to our Facebook, or you can actually follow our YouTube. You actually upload there. Yeah. So really thank Chee Seng and thank everyone for joining today. Wish to see you guys next time, and wish to actually and also we have a feedback form below at the comment section. You guys can just fill it up so we can actually know more insights about we can know what to improve in future events. And yeah, that's all today. Thank you everyone. Thank you, Chee Seng. Thank you.
All right,
Wish to invite you to Xiamen next time.
All right, sure.
Yeah, sure. Bye. Bye guys.